Welcome to my channel, Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, I'm Tash, and this is a podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing, and I also put out regular tutorials. So it's Thursday the 17th of April, and I'm recording from Sydney, Australia. I have one finished object to share this week, and I'm wearing it. This is the Amy Slipover by Sandnes Garn, and I use Sandnes Garn Sunday and alpaca folgatrad or folgatru. I'm not sure exactly how you say that, but it's their lace weight alpaca. Both of these are in colorway 9873, which is called dark olive. And yeah, it's such a great color. I really, really like it. The pattern is designed for Sunday and tin silk mohair, but I substituted the lace weight alpaca. I did one strand of each, but I think it would probably be better to do if you're substituting out the tin silk mohair, like if you find that mohair doesn't agree with you. This is a good substitute, but I'd probably hold it double. But anyway, I held it single, and when I talk about the gauge, you'll hear my gauge was a little bit tighter, I think, because of that substitution. So it's a one size fits all pattern. I use the recommended needles of 3.5 for the body and 3 millimeters for the ribbing. And the gauge is meant to be 23 stitches over 4 inches, and I got 26. So it is a little bit smaller, but if you think about it, it's just in this bib panel that it's smaller, and I knit this to this ribbing section to length. So it just would have been a little bit wider. So I'll stand up and show you. It's got these great ties on the side. I ummed and ahed about the ties, and I'm so glad I did them because I think it looks great. Now, I only just finished blocking it last night, and what I would say is, and I knit everything to the recommended length, which this I was umming and ahhing about with the collar. I thought, would I make it shorter? But I actually am really happy that I made it the full 20 centimeters. And I knit everything else to pattern, except it's meant to be a tubular bind off, 2x2 tubular bind off. There are, so you actually do these, actually I'll just undo this. You cast on all these stitches, then you pick up around here and then cast on some more. That's like 470 stitches. There was no way I was going to do 400 on both sides, 470 stitches with a 2x2 tubular bind off. So that I just did a regular in pattern bind off. I don't even know. I think it actually matches the cast on quite well because it's a crochet provisional cast on, which I would, when I say a crochet provisional cast on, it's the same kind of cast on here like a crochet provisional cast on, but you actually don't use waste yarn, you use the regular yarn. That's one of the reasons I love that cast on, because you can use it as a provisional cast on. So you actually use a crochet hook and a knitting needle, and you go over. I'll put a link in the description below of a tutorial that I have for that, because I think it is such a good cast on, because you can use it for this here and you use the regular yarn, or you can use waste yarn and do it as a provisional cast on, which you then unravel later and get live stitches. Anyway, I don't even know which one's I could probably tell if I worked it out, but that's one that looks like the bind off, just an in pattern bind off, and that's the cast on. So I think it looks good. Anyway, I can't believe I ummed and ahed about the ties, because even though it's they're quite long rows, and each row probably took me about 15 or 16 minutes, but I think I did 17 rows, so it's not the end of the world. I managed to get it done, and I don't think I hadn't even started the ties last week, so this is in a week. I mean, I am on school holidays, but so I blocked it last night. It's looking a little bit kind of skew-if. One thing I think I'll do, if I just stand up, I think it's just a little bit, I think I'm not going to block the whole thing again, but I'm going to wet this section here and stretch that out and pin it and let it dry pinned, because I don't want that to pull in. I think I actually want that to sit flat like that. And I never pin my garments, but this is one that I think I'm going to wet this front, and I'll just show you the back as well. I'll wet the back and lay it out. You sort of have it out flat to dry. It's pretty, except for the collar, it does lay out flat to dry. It dried overnight. I finished this at 11:30 last night, and it's 11:20 now. It's already dry. So, and I had it on a bed out flat with a pedestal fan blowing right onto it. Anyway, I'll just wet this section and this section, and actually I'll turn around and be quiet and just show you the back properly. And from the side and from the front. But do you see how it's coming in like that? I really would like it a little bit higher. I was worried it was going to be too short. It's not. I knit the length exactly to pattern. And I'm 5'3" on a good day. I'm probably shrinking, but anyway. So I think that's what I'll do, is I'll wet that and pin it so that that sits, so the ribbing doesn't contract. Yes, anyway, very excited about, like, I love this. Oh, and I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing it with my dirty green jeans. So it's very matchy, but I think with a white blouse, I really like it. Very, very happy. Can't wait to wear it. Obviously, I'm not going to, like, for me, this is a work outfit, so I probably wouldn't wear it anywhere but work. I don't know, it just feels worky to me. Do you ever have that? You have outfits that are just, no, that's my work clothes. Even though there's nothing that says work about them, just feels like a work outfit. And anyway, a button-up, I guess, for me, like, I know a lot of people wear button-ups not to work. Anyway, I'm definitely getting off track now. So it will take me I'll do that tonight. I'll block that out and let it pin it and see how it goes when it's actually a little bit. I just think it would look better if it went straight down rather than, particularly because my gauge was tighter, this whole thing is a little bit smaller anyway, so it just feels a little bit contracted in. And then we'll maybe just lift it up just a little bit where you see a bit more of the shirt. Anyway, yep, oh, so happy. So I just thought I'd mention, because I felt uncomfortable a little bit talking about this pattern when it was so hard to get this pattern booklet. So I thought I would share with you. Erica from Yarnacopia has actually now put up kits on the Yarnacopia website where you can purchase the pattern booklet along with enough yarn for any one of these patterns in here. So if you, actually I'll just put a little B-roll up here of her site so you can see that there's you add like their kits, right? So you got the booklet, but of course if you buy the booklet and the yarn for one of the patterns, that's the only way. Sandnes Garn are a bit strict. There may be some stores where you can find it where you can just get the booklet, but the agreement that I think they have with suppliers is that they sell the booklet with enough yarn to make one of the patterns. That's their business model. So you would have to buy yarn for one of the patterns, whether that's the Amy Slipover or a different pattern. There are so many patterns in this booklet. So I should tell you about the amount of yarn that I used. I used just under 4 balls of the Sunday, and so this is knitting it to pattern, and I used just over 2 balls of the alpaca lace weight, but I probably should have held it double. So if I was holding it double, that would have been about 4.5. So you would need 4 balls of the Sunday and about 4.5 of the alpaca. It's got really good yardage, but if you're holding it double, obviously you need a lot more. Or I think for this you need 4, just generally, if you weren't substituting, 4 balls of the Sunday and 4 balls of the tin silk mohair. And then there are a lot of other patterns in here. There's the Jules Genser, there's this pattern, the Frankie sweater. I'll put a link to this particular booklet. You can see what's in it, or I'll put a link to Yarnacopia anyway. The other thing that Erica mentioned is that she's going to do kits similarly for the pattern booklet 2302, which is also quite hard to get and has a lot of really beautiful patterns in it. So she's going to work out kits for that too. So I don't know if they'll be up right away, but certainly by the weekend they should be up. And there was something else I was going to mention. Yes, so Erica also said that with the kits, if you wanted to do a substitution, so let's say she's done a kit for the Amy Slipover with Sunday and tin silk mohair, and you wanted to substitute out that alpaca, just send her an email and she'll do up a special order for you. So don't feel completely locked into that particular yarn. If you want to make a yarn substitution with a different Sandnes Garn yarn, you can just send her a message. So Sandnes Garn is available through Yarnacopia until the 30th of April, and then after that it will be Cardiff Cashmere. So anyway, this is this weighs 293 grams, and yeah, I'm super happy with it. And I really like this open style vest thing. I think it's really wearable, and I don't know, I quite like it. I think it's pretty elegant. So yep, so that's my one finished object for the week. So much for my works in progress, and my first new work in progress that I have to share is a blanket, and it's actually from a kit that was gifted to me by a company called Unravelled, and they are the sponsor of today's video. So Unravelled is a family business that's been running since 2020, and they specialise in knitting kits, particularly with beginners in mind. So they have everything that you need in the kit, and they're straightforward patterns that are supported by video tutorials. So I was sent the Essential Blanket Kit, and in that kit I received the written pattern, and on the back there's a QR code for video tutorials. And in the box, it's so beautifully packaged. In the box, I received all of the yarn. I'll talk about the yarn in a second, but this is the colorway that I've started with, and then 2 other colors to make like a sort of like a color block blanket. And in the kit there was also bamboo knitting, Chiaogu bamboo knitting needles, and stitch markers, and a tapestry needle, and like a little leather tag. So 12 balls to make it. I'll talk a little bit about the yarn now, actually, because the yarn is amazing. It's really, really lovely and soft. It's 60% alpaca, 30% merino wool, and 10% polyamide, and it's made in Peru. I'll just show you, and it's a chainette construction. Actually, I'll just show you how it so that's the yarn there, and it has this fantastic stretch, so it's really, really easy to knit with, and it's beautifully soft. So it's a lovely, they're really quality kits. It's quality yarn, excellent knitting needles. Now, I'm not actually knitting with the needles because they're bamboo and I prefer to knit with metal, but I'll I think these are excellent beginner needles, because sometimes I think beginners can find with metal needles it's a bit slippery and they have less control over their stitches. So as far as it, like for a beginner kit, you know, it's really good to start with bamboo or something that's, but at least a good quality, not sort of plastic knitting needles that you're sort of struggling to knit with. So I'll show you my progress. So these are the needles that I'm using. They're just ones that I had in stash. These are, I think these are Addy. I quite like, if I'm just doing garter or stockinette, I just like Addy needles because they're just really blunt. But I do have some Chiaogu ones as well. So this is a pretty short cable, but it's perfectly fine for the blanket. So I think the cast on is a cable. I think they recommend a cable cast on, but I just did a long tail cast on, and it's got a really nice I-cord slip stitch edging. So yeah, it's coming along really beautifully, and it's so lovely and soft. So I find sometimes, like, when people either are new to knitting or they're returning to knitting, they're a bit nervous about putting sort of too much money into it, so they'll often buy sort of not great quality yarn or plastic needles, or just use some plastic needles that they had lying around the house that were their mums or grandmas, or and I think often then they won't necessarily get good results and think it's them when actually it's the materials. So that's one of the things I really like about this, is actually really good quality yarn. It feels beautiful and it's easy to work with, so you're going to actually likely to have good results. And yeah, it's just nice. It's nice to work with it. It makes a much more enjoyable experience. So even though I'm not a beginner knitter, I love having a project like this on the needles, so that I just don't have to think at all. There's no shaping involved. There's no counting. I just, I've cast on my stitches and away I go. So it's nice to have, even if, you're not a beginner knitter, it's still a really lovely kit, either for yourself or for a gift for someone else who might be, getting back into knitting and, or just never knit before and would like to try it out. So the blanket kit's obviously a big kit, but they do have much smaller kits as well, like beanie kits and things like that, and different yarns as well. But this is the yarn that I've tried, the Uno, and I think it's a really excellent yarn. So this particular kit, the Essential Blanket Kit, has the needles included, but some of the kits actually do have options where you can either have the needles included or take them out and have a reduction in price if you don't particularly need the needles, so it's good to have that option. Unravelled have kindly offered a discount code for Mostly Knitting viewers. So if you follow the link in the description below and use the code MostlyKnitting10, you'll receive 10% off the purchase price of anything that you purchase from Unravelled. Also, that is an affiliate link, so if you use that code, I will receive a small percentage of the purchase price at no extra cost to you. I also wanted to share another way that Unravelled are sponsoring this podcast. When I mentioned to them that I was teaching a class for clients at a local women's shelter, they offered to donate 5 beginners kits for anyone who is at the class and just shows an interest in knitting and would like to keep knitting. So I really appreciate that. I think it's a really wonderful way to give back, to inspire people to be able to continue their knitting journey. So maybe take a look at their website and see if there are any kits that interest you. I will just mention that when I first went to the website, all the prices were listed in New Zealand dollars, even though I'm in Australia. So I just scroll down to the bottom and switch to Australian currency. So you might just want to make sure that you're in your local currency. And they do ship worldwide, and they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. But I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think it's really lovely yarn, and I've knit with a lot of yarn. I think it's really beautiful, and I think it would make a great gift for someone, even a great gift for yourself. My second new work in progress is the 2x2 hat by Anne Gagnon, and I'm knitting that out of Madeleine Tosh MCNDK in the colourway Rainwater. Now, I've made this hat with this yarn but in a different colourway before, so it's a very easy repeat knit for me. The last one that I made was in the colourway Kenobi, and I gave that to my brother, and he has a pretty large head, and 2x2 rib is great because it will fit like a huge, it's so stretchy that it will fit a whole range of head sizes, so it's particularly good for gift knitting. If you want to knit a hat for someone, 2x2 rib is great. So the reason I cast this on, I haven't actually done much. The reason I cast this on is because I wanted to do a tutorial for the tubular cast on for a 2x2 rib using Judy's Magic Cast On. I really like Judy's Magic Cast On for this because you don't, with other methods for a 2x2 rib, you sort of have to start with 1x1 and then rearrange the stitches, whereas you don't have to do that at all with Judy's Magic Cast On. So I haven't done very much. I just did it enough for the tutorial, and then now that will be walking knitting. So I'm on a 3.75mm needle. I did cast on with Judy's Magic Cast On with a 4mm and then went down just because it's a pretty firm cast on, but not too tight. Like there's enough stretch in it, but I just I didn't want, if I used a 3.75, might be a little bit tight. And at the end of that tutorial, I also showed you how to weave in the end so that you don't end up with this gap there. So yep, so that's my second new cast on, and it will just, I'm not in a rush for this. I'll just be, I cast on 112 stitches. Did I say that? Yes, and it's a repeat knit. I've knit this many times, so if you've been watching for a while, you will. And also there'll be a link to this and all of my projects on Ravelry, so if there's any other details that I've left out or anything, if I say, I've knit this before or whatever, you can see previous versions on my Ravelry. I have 4 more active works in progress, and the one that I've got on at the moment is the Lulu Slipover by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting that out of Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt in the colourway Charcoal Melange, which is 1065, and I'm just holding that single. I'm using the recommended needles of a 4mm needle for the body and a 3.5mm needle for the ribbing, and this is going to look a bit big on me because I'm knitting this for my friend, so I'm knitting the 37-inch bust, at least the medium size, which is to fit a 37-inch bust. It's an open vest, so it kind of doesn't really have a circumference, but it looks bigger than it looks bigger on my frame because it's not actually for me. So where I'm up to, I tried it on my friend Amy tried it on over a white blouse, so that we could get the length right, and she definitely was happy with the crew neck. So that's one modification I made. It's meant to have like a turtleneck, and I just made it a crew neck so she could wear it and it just wouldn't be up against her neck. Because the Peer Gynt, I really like it, but I think if you're if you're even a little bit sensitive, it might bother you around the neck. So, and I just think this is a bit more versatile anyway to wear underneath the white blouse, or any colour blouse I suppose, but a blouse. So where am I up to? So she tried it on, we decided on the length. So Amy's a bit taller than me, so it's sort of probably a bit long on me, but it's just right on her. She was actually really happy with the length, so I just did 2 setup rows for the the tubular bind off, and then did because it's a 1x1, it's pretty quick, tubular bind off. Now this is the slow bit. The reason I wanted to get the length right is at this point you'll see here, maybe I should take it off actually. Well, let me just grab the needles. Can you see here? Actually, it's kind of helpful to see though. I'm working the right back. I've got to do 4 double knit bands, and the buttons are going to go at the top. So this is the non-buttonhole side. The fronts have the buttonholes, the backs just will have the buttons attached. So I've put these markers in just like at every 10, just to kind of motivate me to go, okay, how many do I have to go? So I'm about halfway, I think. It's really, really tight. I'm knitting this on a 2.5mm needle. So like this yarn on a 2.5, it's hard on my hands and it's taking time. So I'm halfway through the first one, and I have 3.5 of these to go. That's my little button that I chose. I think that's going to look nice, just very plain. Yes, so this side, this right back, you got to pick up the stitches, and then you cast on down here, and I'm working up. When I do this side, I'm going to be picking up the stitches this way, so I'll be casting on here and working down. So depending on which side, one way you're working up, one way you're working down, but it looks the same from either direction. So anyway, I'll just take this off. Maybe I'll show you now what it looks like a bit up closer. So that's the double knit button band. It's very dense against the rest of the ribbing, and it has to go all the way up to including this ribbing around the armhole. Yeah, so it's slow going. Even though there's, like, you might think, oh, that's, four little bands, no big deal, won't take long. But it is actually, because it's hard on my hands, I have to make a commitment my commitment is to do half a day. So if I've got 3.5 left to go, I should have that done by next week. So fingers crossed. I wanted to mention, with this double knitting, when I do the front sides, there'll be the buttonholes. Now, when I did a tutorial on this kind of method with buttonholes for the champagne cardigan, and I use the method where you actually cut the yarn at the buttonholes. I know there is a method where you don't, but I have heard from some people that they actually don't like the results that they get that much from that. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. I'm curious to try it, but I also would rather get good results and weave in a few ends. I'm not to say everybody's going to get poor results from it, but that made me nervous. And I thought, well, at the expense of weaving in there's 4 buttonholes, that'll be 8 strands of yarn to weave in. It's not a lot. I'll probably just do the other method because I know I like the result from that. So anyway, that should be done hopefully by next. That will hopefully be my FO, my finished object for next week's podcast. My next work in progress is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting that out of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in this lovely colourway 709, which is a beautiful camel, and that yarn was gifted to me by Cardiff Cashmere as part of the collaboration with Yarnacopia, and that's the May brand for Yarnacopia. So how am I going with this? I have knit actually quite a bit because I've been using this on my walking knitting, and I've got my markers in because I have just started the decreases. So I've made this many times, at least 8 or 9 times. So it's a pretty easy repeat knit, and I just go back and look at my notes from past ones, which is why I really like putting notes on Ravelry, because then I'm like, how many stitches am I casting on? So this hat has a 23 stitch gauge. I'm using a 3.5mm needle, and I am getting the gauge of 23 stitches over 4 inches. And yeah, it's just beautifully soft. This is going to be a lovely hat to go with the penny gloves that I made. So that should be done by next week as well. My next work in progress is the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite Knit, and I'm using Cardiff Cashmere Classic again for this one, and that yarn was gifted to me as well by Cardiff Cashmere, and this is the colourway 517 MA. And I've made quite a bit of progress on this one. I have done, so it's got a collar, a folded collar here, and then I'm doing the raglan increases down the body, and I've got to the point where the raglan increases are finished, and I need to get these live stitches and pick up down the side and do more double knitting. And I'm actually using, this pattern has a gauge of 23 stitches over 4 inches, meant to be on a 4mm needle, but I needed to use a 3.5mm needle, so 2 needle sizes down to get gauge. Now, these double knitting, this is meant to be done on a 2.5mm needle. So if I go down 2 needle sizes, that's going to be on a 2mm needle. So that's going to be pretty dense. I'm a little bit unsure. That seems really, really small. But the idea of double knitting is that it is, like you're doing 2 rows every row. So you do need it quite dense and compact. So yeah, I'll try it on a 2mm. I'm sure that will be right. I'm just not looking forward to it, especially when I'm doing it on the Lulu Slipover as well. So this is how it's going to sit on me, and this is where so that's the folded collar, and then so pick up these stitches and then pick up down here, and then it will have a V. Now my row gauge is a tiny bit shorter, so I'm meant to actually, I think, split for the sleeves right now, so that might be a little bit short. I'll finish this. One of the reasons my row gauge is a little bit, like, I'm happy about that is I actually want that V to be a little bit higher because I plan to wear this as a top, not a sweater. So I think that should just be like a nice V for me. And then, but I don't know that I'm ready to, like, I'll try it on over a tank, obviously not over a collared shirt, but I don't think that's ready to split. So I may need to do a few more rounds even before I split off for the sleeves. So, but that's my next step. So this is kind of like when I have a bit of time and can think to actually, pick up those stitches and work on that. This is obviously beautiful yarn to work with, but once you start working with yarn on a very tight gauge, it is harder on the hands. So that may just take me a little bit of a while, and I can't move forward until that's done, because then that this process has to be done before I move to the next step. So anyway, that will certainly be progressed over this week. I just don't know how far. My last active work in progress is the Comfort Core Socks by Summer Lee, and I've actually moved it on to a long circular needle for magic loop. This is a 40-inch or 100-centimetre needle, 2.25 millimetre, which is my favourite needles for knitting socks, and it looks huge here. So I'm still working the gusset G creases, but I just got it off the deep ends because it was annoying me. I've probably only done a couple of rows since last podcast, but hopefully I'll make a little bit more progress on that this week. It just looks kind of crazy with this really tight ribbing and then this seed stitch, and anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine once, but just sort of has a very odd look to it. But as long as it looks all right on the foot, or fits all right on the foot, I'll be happy. So that's it for my active works in progress. I am still working on I haven't made any progress on the Sophie scarf, so the one that's out of Sandnes Garn Alpaca Silk, so I just won't get into it. I'll show that when I've actually made some progress. Moving on to my acquisitions and plans, I was gifted a pattern this week called the Seoul Blouse by Aegyoknit, and that was gifted to me by Evelyn, so thank you so much, Evelyn. I've wanted to make this pattern since I first saw it, but I've been a bit stumped about what yarn to choose. So the recommended yarn is Gepard Garn, and there's a cashmere lace held together with a sport weight linen and silk blend. And Gepard Garn you pretty much can't get here in Australia, so I'd have to order it from overseas. And I can't even think, so if I wanted to use the recommended yarn, and I can't really even think of a good substitute for that yarn. So I definitely want to make it, but I have to have a think about whether I'm ready to order that yarn from Gepard Garn, or if I can figure out some other kind of substitute. So it doesn't have to be a cashmere lace, it could be like an alpaca lace, but the linen silk blend, the sport linen silk, is sort of that one's stumping me. So if anyone has got any other suggestions for replacements for those two yarns, it's the horse silk and their cashmere lace. But it's a beautiful pattern, and I definitely want to make it, and it looks really lovely. It does actually have some colour work where you're knitting flat, so not that I'm super keen on that. But I could either convert that to, knitting in the round and steeking, that would be a good opportunity for me to steek, or I could just bite the bullet and do it, where I'm purling in colour work. It's not ideal, but it's not over the whole pattern. It's just over the bit where you're actually working flat, sort of around where the sleeves would be. Anyway, something to think about. I don't have the yarn for it, but that is a gifted pattern this week. So thank you so much, Evelyn. As for other upcoming plans, I mentioned last week that I was gifted this yarn from Cardiff. This is their prime yarn, which is their new base. It is the cashmere silk blend yarn, so it's 68% cashmere, 32% silk, and it's 25 grams is 300 meters. So I'm going to hold this double for a sweater, definitely a pullover, not a cardigan. That's how I sort of see it. And I did some swatching. I was a good girl. Now I haven't blocked this yet, so I do actually have to block it, but I thought I'll just show you pre-blocked. So I started with a 6mm needle and then a 5.5. I'm swatching for gauge, but also fabric that I like. So this is holding it double, a 6mm, a 5.5, a 5, and a 4.5 at the bottom. I'll hold it the other way, just a little bit easier to see. I think I liked it the best on the 5mm, but of course I haven't blocked it yet, so I'll see. Interestingly enough, my gauge is a lot tighter than other things that I've seen, or other patterns that I've seen with, like, you know, maybe a merino silk held double. So on the 5mm needle, pre-blocking, I got 20 stitches over 4 inches. So I'll be interested to see. And I think that is, at least pre-blocking, that's the fabric I like the best. I think that's sort of the, I think it's even, but still drapey. So anyway, so the patterns that I've mentioned last week a few patterns, and I really appreciate a few people mentioned some different options as well. So I favoured a lot of those. I think it will be dictated by my gauge as well, and also maybe even just the construction. Like I'm veering towards the Cumulus Blouse O-neck, which has an 18 stitch gauge on a 4.5mm needle, but I think I would be doing it on the 5, and maybe after blocking I'll get 18 stitches. But the other reason I'm thinking about that pattern is it's a raglan, which is very easy to modify for gauge. And I was umming and ahhing between the V-neck and the O-neck, but I think I like the O-neck, so at least for this. So I think the yarn is just so lovely and stunning. I just want to go for something really simple with the I-cord finishing. So that is an upcoming plan, but I've just got to block that swatch and get a better idea of what the fabric is like and my gauge after blocking. Another plan is I was chatting with my daughter Alex. I'd really like just sort of encouraging her to see if she might want to, you know, we've been sewing together, whether she might want to knit something. And she's very much directed by the product. So if she wants the outcome, she will absolutely work solidly to get it done. So I showed her a few summer tops. Even though we're not going into summer, she's sort of a bit more into tops rather than sweaters. And I showed her the Chrysler top by Pernille Larsen, and she really liked the look of that. So she ordered some Knitting for Olive pure silk in the colorway Ice Blue. So she's going to, when that arrives, she's going to start that. And because I want to make it as well, and I have like a really orangey, I forgot to grab the yarn, but I'll put a picture of it up there, a really orangey red, which I'm, you know, totally into that color at the moment. I've got that color to make that top. So when when hers arrives, we might cast that on together. And yep, so that's an upcoming plan, pretty much dictated by wanting to do that with her. I mean, I want it anyway, right? But all of my plans are like, which one do I do next? Well, that will prompt me to do that one next. The other Knitting for Olive pure silk pattern that I plan to make starting in May is the Melides Dress, and I said last week that's another thing I want to do this week in the holidays, is actually just to sit down with a pattern and have a read through it and see if because my gauge swatch, when I use this yarn for in a pink colorway for the Cumulus blouse, my gauge in my swatch was totally different to my gauge in the garment. So, you know, if you bother to make a swatch and then it's not helpful anyway. In fact, it's less than helpful because you get a completely different result than the one that you're expecting. So I just want to have a look at the Melides pattern and see if there's wiggle room to sort of start and then block as you go. So that's another, and also it's a different color. So and I find I'm using a black color, and I find that often the darker colors have a different gauge, like because maybe it's the dye that's in them that's a little bit plumper, and so my gauge usually tends, if I do have a difference in gauge with different colorways, often with a darker colorway, it's a little bit larger. The stitches are a bit larger, maybe just because of the dye that's in the yarn. Anyway, that's another plan. And the last plan, well, you know, there's lots of plans always, but the other one is the Jules Genser. And that is in that 2202 Sandnes Garn booklet, using Knitting for Olive silk mohair in the colorway Elderflower, and doing that as a knit along with Liz and Paige and those twins who knit. So yes, that's lots of plans. But what did I do? I started a blanket and I started a hat. That's all right. I can start some silk tops and another silk mohair top. And yes, of course, more mohair. I don't mind having lots of things on the needles. And actually also I just finished the Amy Slipover. The Lulu Slipover is almost finished, so I'm kind of happy to get some more garments on the needles anyway. So that's it for my upcoming plans. So before I get into my personal stuff, I'll just mention I did do a little bit of sewing on this last weekend with my daughter Alex and my husband. We were both working on our Babylon leather bags. Alex is working on her second bag. I'm still working on my first, and my husband is working on his first. So that was really nice. I'll put in a little video here of us working on our bags. All right, so Paul is working on the second part of his bag. He's done the what are those little, the corner bits? They're actually quite tricky, those corner
Which
bits
ones?
there.
These bits?
The little plates.
The little plates, yes.
Yep. So I've done
and they
those.
look really good. And just sewing these two pieces together now on the back part of it.
This bit.
Yes, and Alex had to undo
Here.
a little bit. Oh yeah.
And I had to undo a lot of bit.
Yes, that whole top
Yes,
seam
that whole top bit.
was done and got messed up. So that's all right. It's a straight seam. It's pretty quick. So.
Yes.
And Alex is working on her little tote. What is it called? Like a quilted shoulder bag?
It's a crossbody bag.
Oh, crossbody bag. Okay.
So I haven't worked on it in a while because I kept screwing up this bit, and then I was just like, I hate it. So then I just stopped for a while. But now that I'm actually doing it, I don't want to stop. So
it took about 2 minutes to fix.
I know, 2 minutes, and that whole time I was just like so cranky at it. But now I'm actually enjoying it again because I'm doing it right.
Excellent. So. All right, and I have, I'm just finishing up the handles. I'm just doing that little straight section down here and then this bit here, and then I'm on to actually putting the bag together finally. So yes, a little bit of sewing afternoon. So that's been fun. Alex is home today and we're going to both do a little bit more work on our bags this afternoon. Alex uses hers every day, all the time, and she loves it. And that's what I was saying about her with like making that Chrysler top. If she wants to make something, she is quite determined and she pushes through. She got a little bit stalled on that bag because she was doing it with black leather and black thread in the dark in her room. So she got a bit muddled and then just put it aside. But it was, I think, you know how that happens sometimes with your knitting where you just sort of get stuck on something and then you think it's a bigger deal than it actually is to fix. Anyway, we're all back on track now and we're all making, and so Alex and I are going to do a little bit of the, sewing this afternoon. So if you, I've mentioned this, I haven't mentioned our bags in a little while because during term time I don't have a lot of head capacity for sewing in term time, but it's the holidays now, and I also, I'm on a roll now, and I'm actually pushed through like a tricky bit where I'm actually doing like actually piecing the bag together now. So kind of like I've got some momentum, and yeah. So I just wanted to mention with Babylon Leather, if you are interested in those kits, Babylon Leather has if you follow my link in the description. You'll get either, if there's no discount on the website at the moment, you'll get 20% off. If there is a discount, you'll get an additional 5% off if you use that link and the code. I think it's mostly knitting 10, but I'll put it down below if it's something different. So we are loving our bags. I'm a bit more like, I'm happy for things to see a little bit of progress here and there. I think Alex will probably finish her bag in the next week, maybe even this Easter weekend. So so if you wanted to try out those kits, if you use that link, I do get a small percentage of the purchase price as well because it is an affiliate link. Right, so I think that's it for the knitting and sewing content this week. If you're leaving me now, I really appreciate you being here. If you are able to like and subscribe if you haven't already, that would be really lovely. Then you'll get notified of any future podcasts that I put out. So moving on to personal stuff, I did mention that I was sewing with our bags. Last week I said I was going to do some garment sewing these holidays. The holidays aren't over. I do plan to do some garment sewing. So this weekend, definitely, it's a long weekend. I mean, I'm on holidays anyway, but the Easter weekend, I'm going to do some garment sewing. So it'll be a surprise as to what I actually make, and I'll show you next week. I think it's a surprise for both you and me. I'm not sure. I have no idea what I'm going to make, but something. I've got lots of fabric and patterns and thread. I will be able to figure out something with what I have. I shouldn't have to go to the store, so there'll be something next week for sure. As to other personal stuff, so I've had almost a full week of school holidays. I did do quite a bit of sewing on the weekend with my husband and Alex. On Monday I went down the south coast with my mum to visit an old friend of hers, who used to be our old neighbours in Sydney, and I haven't seen my mum's friend Anne. I haven't seen her in probably 35 years. It was just so good to see her. She was just like I remember her. It was just, even the way she speaks, because she's Dutch, and she was like, "Oh, Dash, it's so good to see you." And so anyway, I probably did a very bad accent, but it was just... Anyway, she's just exactly as I remember her, and obviously older, but she doesn't look any different to me. It was really lovely to spend time with her and to spend time on the drive down and back with my mum. And my mum very kindly drove so that I could knit. So I've got quite a bit of work done from, car knitting, which has been nice. Other than that, just been helping my son Zach with a bit of his maths and going out for dinner with friends. It was my daughter Alex's 20th birthday on Tuesday, so we went out for sushi with her, and then I went out to dinner with a friend last night. I tend to do that in school holidays. I catch up with a lot of people just in school, especially if they live a bit of a distance away. My friend Gloria, we had dinner in the city, and I probably live about a 40-minute drive from the city centre. So I don't go into the city that often. So anyway, that was really lovely. And then tonight we are going out to trivia again, but we might have dinner before we go. As much as I like having dinner out, it does add up. We were out, Tuesday night, last night. So we'll probably have dinner at home and then go out to trivia. And heaps of us are going. So last time I think it was just me and my husband and Alex and her boyfriend and his family. But my son Zach's going to come, and my daughter Mia and her boyfriend, also Zach. So we'll have a big table with lots of brains. It doesn't mean we'll win, but we'll have fun. So that's tonight. And then it's Easter weekend coming up. So I've got church on Friday morning and Sunday morning. And other than that, just spending time with family, doing some sewing, doing some knitting, just relaxing, which is really nice, because these holidays last year, I was doing a lot of schoolwork, and I pretty much lost the whole holiday to some professional development that I had to do. I've got a little bit of schoolwork to do, but nothing like last time, just a few hours worth getting ready for a new syllabus. Other than that, it should just be like a proper break. I am teaching some knitting next week for the clients at the for the local women's shelter. So that's on Wednesday, but that doesn't feel like work. I'm so excited about that, and I'm really hoping that the boxes from the beginner kits from Unravelled arrive, so that I have them ready to give. If not, I'm hoping that it might be something that they should be there. If not, the manager should be able to distribute it to people, to the clients later. So because it's only local, I could just drop them off another time. So it's not the end of the world if they don't arrive. But I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping they do, because it's like Friday and Monday are public holidays here. So nothing gets delivered on those days. Anyway, so that's coming up. That's on Wednesday. And other than that, I think that's kind of it. Yeah. So just happy to have a break. Happy to have a bit of rest time and getting up and not being scheduled. So yeah, so I've got another week, which will be nice. Anyway, I think that's it. You probably heard enough from me. And yeah, only a week since my last podcast, and I hope to do another one next Thursday. So I'll report back to how everything went with my knitting class, because that's next Wednesday. So I'll do another podcast next Thursday. So anyway, thanks for being here, and yeah, I'll see you next time.